This is James Detroit. It's April 3rd, 2020. Thank you for tuning in. Current events, historical perspective. Doing a series of things today, trying to keep them under 5 minutes. And the first one I do 10 minutes. My apologies. I'll try to be more efficient here. It is only science fiction today. Terminator series, iRobot, Maximum Overdrive, Enemy of the State. These movies have a surveillance aspect to them. I want to go back to Nazi Germany, 1936. And the quote goes something like this, that today, for the first time in recorded human history, our entire nation has full gun registration. Now watch us. And it was a quote from Adolf Hitler. And then we understand what happened after that. You know, America is much more challenging to this little scene, and it's considered conspiratorial if you even suggest that there is an elite group of people, puppets behind the curtain that's pulling the strings. And yet, time and time again, we see things happening. It's right out in front of us. Movies give us examples of things happening on a regular basis, and yet it's science fiction. Well, it's only science fiction today. America is much more challenging to enforce the final acts of control because of the Second Amendment. And it does provide, still yet today, a buffer that the framers of the Constitution implemented so that we may have a chance to try to maintain as much liberty and as much freedom as possible. The control and liberty that we are continuing to give up willfully, we the sheeple, through technology, our smartphones, our TVs, our body monitoring devices. It's all in the name of being able to be more healthy, to save lives. And yet we continue to give up that data. We continue to give up that information. They're tracking us on a regular basis. And you say, oh, this guy's a nut job. Well, I've been called worse. But I will say, as I read this week, in Baltimore, there's a police cruiser driving around with the PA system that says it's a $5,000 fine if you are caught outside of your residence for non-essential activities. Well, but the coffee shop drive-through is open. I guess that is considered essential. And 2 days ago, I've already mentioned this to you, but there were a group of 3 landscapers from a small business, landscaping business. Three people were providing landscape work, and it was in Oakland County, and they were fined $500 each for performing what is considered non-essential activities. And I think this is so very dangerous, and we're willing to do it in the name of this perceived safety, because this is such an important time in our life. I want to give a shout out right now to Bob Martin, Review Magazine, and to all those that are on the other side of most political conversations. Trent Farnsworth comes to mind, former fire union chief or the head of the firefighters union in Flint, Michigan. And I just think that the moment right now that we're faced with should not be whether or not you would call yourself a Democrat or going to vote, for somebody with a D next to their name or an R next to their name. I grew up as a Democrat. I remember on the bus in 1976, the Ford and Carter presidential election. I can remember chanting, Carter, Carter, Carter on the bus. I can remember being all about Jimmy Carter. And so much of our family dinners were about us versus them. Blue collar versus white collar, and Republicans versus Democrats, the working man, the blue collar Democratic working man. And that's my background. And as a Democrat, we used to suggest that it was Big Brother that was the Republicans that were watching us, that it was the government, and it was to divide and conquer. And now, through the FISA abuse and the other things that are yet to be reported in mainstream media, examples of how it's a lot of left-leaning and or staunch Democrats in positions of power that are exercising the abuse of power of surveillance against American citizens. And but wait, they're the same people, the Republicans and the Democrats. It's the elitism that's in power. They are the same. Congress was there before Trump got elected. I was really hoping, just like when I voted for Ross Perot in two different elections, and people say that I threw my vote away. I was hoping that he could make a difference. In the early 90s, I noticed that this country's leadership was going a direction that I did not agree with. And I felt like I was not represented by those people in the elected positions. And it's the reason why I voted for Ted Nugent for governor of Michigan as a write-in a number of times. But I felt like somebody that could represent me more than what I was getting. And Congress was here before Trump got here. And regardless if he wins in November or not, even if he had a second term, most of the people in Congress will be there after he's gone. And not just the senators and the representatives that end up being there for the longest careers ever, but it's the people that are behind the scenes with them. They were there before Trump got there. They were there before a lot of the people that got elected to Congress, and a lot of them will be there after. And I just think that this is not conspiratorial. This is legitimate. There is an attempt to have as much control over all of us so they then can have and decide where the money goes. And that's going to be the next segment today in this series of videos. Is I'm going to give try to be efficient and effective about talking about money and kind of how we got to where we're at right now. As always, I appreciate you watching and subscribing. I also appreciate it if you share it with somebody else if you like it. And I look forward to talking to you again. And this is James Detroit. I'm out.